On to game 3 we go. So after that long game 2, I feel like I finally understand what I'm going to need to do. Here is my opponent's team. He's running a Yu-Gi-Oh team. It's got Blue Eyes White Dragon on there. It's got the really nice Thousand Dragons. So he's got some discount stuff. My opponent is very young, both in age and in the game. This was I think his second game ever, or something that I heard. Third, I'm not sure. So while we're playing, I actually kind of teach him the ropes of how to use Professor X Global. So that's pretty fun. So I start off here by paying a bolt and using the Red Dragon Global to buy a big entrance, which goes into the bag. So it's a good first turn. As I was saying earlier, I feel like I finally understand how this team is going to go. I need to move much quicker to the combo. So I'm going to start by buying a big entrance because that just helps discount all these 4-cost characters and cards by 1. So my opponent rolls. He gets a couple of sidekicks. He's going to put those sidekicks out, and he's going to save himself 2 masks. Let's see what he does with those. Or a mask and a question mark. He's going to buy 2 morphing jars. In which case I'm going to Professor X Global 2 times. Moving on to my second turn. This is turn 2 for me. I'm going to draw 4. I finally draw that big entrance on turn 2, so that's good. Roll it all up and land the big entrance. I have 2 sidekicks of my own. I don't really want those sidekicks, especially because I landed a big entrance. There's no point for me to lower my ability to buy stuff when I roll a big entrance. So I'm going to re-roll those. One of them stays a sidekick, and I get 2 fists to go along with everything else. So I pay a big entrance. I'm going to pay 3 here for a Wolverine. So there's paying the 3, and I buy a Wolverine, pop him in the bag. I like starting off with Wolverine because it immediately hits my win condition. So if I can get him out and I can keep him out, then I'm good to go. And I bought a Black Widow there for 1 shield because I had the shield, and why not? My opponent rolls a shield, a fist, and a mask and a question mark. He's going to buy himself a Injection Fairy Lady, which is a pretty good card, especially for a 2-drop. If you're running all Yu-Gi-Oh, that's a great card to have as a 2-drop. So he's got a couple of low cards. He's got Injection Fairy Lady. He's got Morphing Jar and that Baby Dragon, all of which are low cost, which means he can attack me fairly quickly if he gets a bunch of that out on the board. So I roll Wolverine, but I don't roll the Stinger, Black Widow Stinger. So I field Wolverine, pass over to him so that he can use Professor X Global. So he's going to pay 1 of those masks to pull over 2 of his white dice, pay another mask to pull over the other 2. And then he's going to send it back to me, and I'm not going to attack. I'm going to end my turn. So he's going to be able to draw 4 from his bag, and he's going to be able to take the 4 from prep area that he just prepped with Professor X Global. The power of the globals. Rolls it up, and he nails 2. I think they're both on the 4-3 side. 2 morphing jars. Along with that, he has 2 sidekicks. Let's see if he re-rolls any of those sidekicks or if he just sticks with what he has. Looks like he's going to put those sidekicks out. And he's got 1 of them's at its top face because he's got to pay an energy for that. He's going to end up passing priority over to me so that I can Professor X Global. But before he does that, he looks like he's going to want to buy another one of his Morphing Jar dice with a mask. The thing about Morphing Jar that it's kind of I have a love-hate relationship with it because I love the fact that if you spend a mask, you're going to have the ability to roll a character that can give you 2 masks and then ramp harder. But at the same time, you have to actually spend that mask, and if you're buying him early, you're killing your ramp. So the question is, do I want to buy this early with the hopes of having ramp later, or do I want to have ramp now? It depends on what team you're running, too. So I PXG'd there, and he's going to push everything forward. So the thing about new players is they haven't yet learned to be afraid of full swings and the retaliation that comes after that. But it's a double-edged sword for an experienced player because we may think, oh, it's a bad idea to do that and not be prepared for it when it happens. So they can catch you off guard. I wasn't expecting them to attack, so I don't have a bunch of stuff on to block. So I take 4 damage right away. So what he's doing actually right now with the big swing in early is actually really good for him because I was not prepared and set up to have to deal with that early pressure. So if you're ever playing new players and they have the ability to just swing in because they're not scared yet of of the retaliation in this game. This is a game of board swings. So I roll a bunch of bolts, and I don't roll big entrance. A ton of bolts. So I'm going to field that sidekick. I'm going to ping that sidekick out, reducing something by 2 because he brought Blue Eyes White Dragon Global. I'll pay 2, a mask and a bolt to buy that Silver Sable that is in used. And then I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to pay a bolt to use Red Dragon Global. Pay 1 to buy and infiltrate. So I've essentially set everything up that I need except that Nick Fury. And I've split that generic 2 into a generic 1 because I paid 1 for the infiltrate. End my turn. So he refills his bag. He picks up 2 of his Injection Fairy ladies and 1 of his morphing jars. So he's got a lot of aggression early if he can roll these characters. He's going to pick it up and re-roll because he wants the characters, you can tell. Ooh, and he gets 2. Let's see what he does. He's got 2, and I don't think he has to pay to field either of those. Those look like they're on their lowest face. He's got 1 on the 1-3 and a 1 on the 3-3, perhaps? Looks like he had a little trouble getting him in the field there. So he's going to pay 3 energy for that big entrance that he just bought. Now here he probably should have used the Red Dragon Global to hit me for 1 and then paid just 1. That way he would have had 2 masks. But not a big deal. Okay, here he goes again. Is he going to push? He just decides here to push 1. And so clearly I'm going to block that because I have 8 attack and 4 defense to that attacks, or that 3 attack. Refill the bag. Pull out 4. I pull out the infiltrate there. I'm not going to really need that yet because I don't have Nick Fury, so I should keep it on that 2-face there. Let's see if I do or if I make a mistake here. I definitely want to roll this Silver Sable. It wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if I didn't roll it because I could use it to PXG a bunch of stuff over. Choosing to re-roll that infiltrate, probably not a very good idea because if it comes up infiltrate, what do I use it for? But it doesn't, so that's nice. And I keep the Silver Sable on its 2 mask face, which means I'm going to pay as much sidekick dice as I can for something so that I can use the Silver Sable masks to do my PXG. So I buy another Silver Sable, paying 4. I'm going to pay 2 for another one of those Black Widow Stinger dice. And I don't really need that. In fact, I really need to buy one of those Nick Fury patches. I probably should have paid a little bit more for the patch, but I'm keeping all these masks so I can basically re-roll everything next turn. He's going to go ahead and PXG those 2 dice over that he had last turn. And I'll end my turn. So he's going to pull from his bag. He's going to pull 4 dice. 1, 2, 3, 4. Add those dice that were in prep. Okay, and he's going to do a reroll here, see what he comes up with. Lands the 3/3 side of the Injection Fairy Lily again. He's got a bunch of shields. See what he's going to spend things on. Shield and a fist for the third Injection Fairy Lady. Injection Fairy Lady. Wow. Spending a question mark. What is he going to do with that question mark? Spending a question mark along with a shield to buy one of those. So I take a damage because he Red Dragon Global and bought with a shield bought a Monster Reborn. I'm going to pay 2 to bring over 4. I'm going to pay 1 mask off that 2 mask to bring over those 2, giving me 6 to roll. Next turn, he's going to push in, and so I'm going to have to think about how I want to block because I know I'm going to take a couple more damage here. I want to block in such a way that keeps Wolverine in the field because I don't want to have to keep trying to re-roll him and hope that things come up. And I'll block the Morphing Jar. Now here, this is a mistake here. The 1/3 Injection Fairy Lady should have cleared off the board. I didn't catch it because I was calculating my damage. So I'm going to pick up my dice, going to roll. I have a lot of dice here. Did not land either of those 2 characters, which is something I'd rather do not like. I'd rather have some characters. Got a lot of fists and other things too. I don't really need those. I've already bought just about all the fist characters I'd want. I only need 1 Wolverine for the combo to go off. Buying a second one is just slow. But here's a great time for me to buy with 3 to buy a Nick Fury, which is what I do. Put him in the bag. I could actually buy a second one here if I wanted, and I do. Put it in the bag. Maximize my ability to get one of them because I'm working my way towards that combo. I've got 1 piece. I've got 2 other pieces in the bag. I think 3 other pieces in the bag. Pass over to him for him to PXG. He takes 2. He takes 2 more. Nice thing about PXGing on your opponent's turn is that out of play area or that spent pile doesn't exist, which means you can move over the die you had just used to PXG before. But he didn't have to do that because he had enough in the field already. So he refills and he pulls 4 more new dice. Rolling a lot of dice. He's doing a good job of keeping his ramp up, especially for someone who's just learning about Professor X. He's keeping that in his mind, and he's maintaining a good ramp, which is great for his team because he's running a team that seems to want to be pretty fast and pretty heavily attacking. So if you're ever running a team like that, you want to make sure you have good ramp with it. Okay, so he fields a ton of stuff. He ends up with a full board. And I only have 2 blockers, so I know if he swings with everything, I'm going to take a ton of damage. And on top of that, he's going to Red Dragon Global here. So he's playing really well. If he's going to Red Dragon Global, though, I tell him he has to buy something because the Global doesn't trigger, the damage doesn't trigger unless you buy something. So he's going to buy a second Monster Reborn. Then he's thinking about what he wants to do, how many he wants to attack with. He looks like he's going to push everything. But before he does, I have to be able to use my globals to Professor X Global. Now he's thinking about it again. What does he want to do? Doesn't look like he wants to push everything anymore. So again, this is a game about learning when to push with everything, when not to push with everything. This is a fine idea. Don't push with everything because you want to leave some stuff to block if someone, say for example, if I get a bunch of stuff and try to attack back, you wouldn't have any way to block any of it. But if he did push everything, because he knows I'm not going to swing with that Wolverine. Well, hopefully he knows that. I'm not going to swing with that Wolverine until I have the win. So attacking with as much as possible would put me in a really precarious position. So I block in such a way that my Wolverine stays alive and my Black Widow Stinger goes off, and I think I used it to hit him for 1. Okay, so I get Nick Fury there. I miss both infiltrates again. I have not had good luck today on any of these rounds landing the infiltrate. There it goes again. I missed it again. So I had every piece except. So I have a Silver Sable. I have Nick Fury, but neither of the infiltrates landed. And what's worse, I don't have very much ramp to churn through that bag. So those are going to go into used, and I'm going to sit here and have to put them in the bag and work my way around to them again. So I buy a second Wolverine just because at this point I'm just going to maximize every possible way to land the combo. That 2 generic should burn right now because you can't use generic energy on your opponent's turn. So there it is, it burned while he was rolling and re-rolling. So he re-rolls everything. He ends up with another Injection Fairy Lady. He's going to put her out on the field. It looks like that's the 1-3 side. He has a big entrance that he can use. He has another character that he's going to want to field, obviously. He's going to pay a shield to do it. Morphing Jar is great because it has that great stat line. Earlier we talked about how the decision to kill your ramp to buy it in hopes that it ramps you harder earlier or later kind of makes him in a do I buy him, do I not buy him thing. But man, his stat line is so good. So he swings with everything. Here's what he probably should have done last turn before I had all these blockers. And I'm going to block in a couple of these. I have to let a couple go through. The question is, what do I want to go through, and what do I want to block? I don't really want to lose characters, especially the characters that are the pieces of the combo. But losing that Black Widow is fine. So all of these on the top part of the screen will stay alive. All of mine. All of his on the top part of the screen will KO, except that Morphing Jar that's being blocked by the sidekick. I will end up taking 2 damage from those 2 sidekicks that I let go through. His board's going to get hit a little bit, which is nice for me. Means that I am less likely to worry about things, just in the simple fact that he's going to have to re-roll those characters, and they might not come up as characters. So I took the 2 from there, and I used my Aftershock ability to deal that damage to that character, that Morphing Jar, which had already taken 2. I give it 1 more for its 3 defense to KO it. And it is my turn, so I now have the board advantage, which is great. Board advantage with this team that I'm running doesn't really matter because I'm running an OTK. Well, I'm running an unblockable win condition, so whether or not he has a million characters on board or 1 doesn't matter because it's going to go through if I can land it. 2 characters landed, so another Silver Sable. I can make 2 things unblockable. It's great. So I'm going to re-roll the patch, and he comes up. So this is much better rolling in this round than I've had in the past couple of rounds. Those shouldn't go into use. Those should go into spent. He's going to pay 2 masks to move over 4 sidekicks. Or just 1 mask. He only has 1 because he had a shield in there. So that shield looks like it's going to burn. Alright, so I definitely have a board advantage. So at this point, if he fields a bunch of characters, he could swing into me, but I'm going to be able to block just about everything he has. Kind of a weird roll there. So he re-rolls and let's see. He's already got a big entrance and he's got a 2 side on the big entrance, so I would keep both of those the same. He's got a couple sidekicks he can field and an Injection Fairy Lady. It's a hard thing to say. So he is going to buy 1,000 Dragon. Here's another card that has a good stat line. Thousand Dragon. One fielding cost, I think, on the top two sides, 2 and 3 faces, and some decent attack for 6 with a great ability and an awesome global. There's a lot of hidden gems in that Yu-Gi-Oh set that not a lot of people take a look at. That's the set that really introduced Overcrush without calling it Overcrush, and introduced Underdog without calling it Underdog. It's fun to look back at that set and sets in the past and try to see where some of the new keyword abilities that have been included came from. So he's just buying up some stuff here. He's leaving himself a mask to Professor X Global. I'm going to Professor X Global. He decides now if he wants to attack. Let's see if he does. Here is a bad idea to attack, and I think he understands that, so he passes over to me. And let's see, did I draw an infiltrate? I did not draw an infiltrate, so I'm still working towards it. I know there's 2 in the bag now, though, and there's not much left. So reroll these 2 things. Didn't get the stinger. That's fine. I don't really need to buy much, but if I want a Professor X Global, I need to buy something, otherwise I'm not going to be able to move over 2 dice. So I'll pay 2. Buy another stinger. Pass priority to him. He's going to be able to PXG over 1 die. Because he didn't have 2 sidekicks. I guess they're all in his bag still. That's the thing about overbuying. If you end up overbuying and buying and buying and all this stuff, you're going to end up filling your bag up with stuff you're not looking for. That's what I'm kind of afraid of doing here. In order to maintain the ramp, you have to spend to get sidekicks over into that used pile. That shield that I moved over, that was a Black Widow, should still be out, but there's no global that I could use for it. And I can't PXG it over, so it's not like it's going to affect anything. So he's got a Monster Reborn, but I don't think he's going to do anything with it. He's going to pay a question mark to field that. I probably would have paid the shield because you could use that question mark for PXG. Oh, he is going to use that Monster Reborn. That's right. He's going to roll that from his used pile. If it comes up a character face, you field it for free. So it is fielded for free. So now he's got a Thousand Dragon in the field. That's got I think it's a 7 attack? 7/6. That's such a good card and such a good die. If you have not bought into the Yu-Gi-Oh set, man, you should consider it. That's really good. Obviously, the Blue Eyes is really good, and if you like that, if you like ring teams, not Lantern Ring, but the Action Attraction Ring, what is that called? I forget. That's some really cool stuff. Lord of D, then the ring attached to him. Some pretty cool stuff. All right, so here's the moment. What do I draw? I draw 2 infiltrates. So I have to land one of them. If they don't come up, they're going to cycle back through the bag. And they don't come up. All right, so I get one more shot, one more chance for either of those to come up. Let's see what happens. If that comes up, that's basically game over because I'm going to make the Wolverine unblockable. Here it is. And the combo lands. Finally, the combo lands. So here I go. I don't have to do anything else. I can basically just attach that there. Tell my opponent that gives my Wolverine the Avengers ability. I'm going to sacrifice Silver Sable. He technically can PXG here, but it's not going to matter because that's coming in for 16 damage plus 4 plus 4, 24 damage. Oof. So that's the game. So the combo finally lands, and it felt really good. It took a while to get to that roll, to get to that point, but the combo finally lands. So that's the end of Game 3. That puts me now 1-2. 1-2. I'm clawing my way back to 500. I've got to win one more game to end up 2-2. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time.